Hi there, welcome to episode 8 of the Knitter Next Door podcast. My name's Angie B and you're joining me in my home, which is in Mansfield, which is fairly centrally located in the UK. I live here with my husband Richard, my two sons Ezra and Aidan, who are 2 and 13 respectively. I have two naughty Bengals, just having a bit of a scrap actually over there, look at them, called Lily and Teddy. And a silly staffy called Layla, or Layla Bean, or Bernard Bum, or Bottom, or about a million different names now. She's getting worried because she's heard her name. What's the matter, Layla Boo? Come here, come here, come here, come here. Layla Bean. Bernard. Arr, arr. So, that's Layla. Today is Tuesday the 30th of October 2018. On social media you can find me as AngieB_79 on Instagram, or on Ravelry I am AngieB1979. I'm more active on Instagram than probably anywhere else, to be honest. So yeah, do feel free to follow me on there, no problem at all. Got a little bit of a cold today, so if I have a bit of the sniffles and that's annoying you, I really do apologise. So welcome to anybody who is new to the podcast. This is primarily a podcast focused on knitting. I do talk about other fibre related crafts though from time to time. And to anybody who's a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you very much for coming back and joining me once again as I talk about my knitting, or ramble on about my knitting, as is probably more accurate description of what actually goes on here. Moving into finished objects. So the first one that I have for you for this week is the Deco Drape, which I am now wearing proudly. This is a... Whoa, okay. Thanks, Teddy. This is a pattern by Stephen West. And, oh gosh, here they go again. Look at this. This is, I say every week I've got two naughty Bengals, but there they are, off they go. The crazy cats, crazy kitties. So this is a pattern... This is a pattern by Stephen West. It isn't available for general purchase at the moment. I think it will be ready at some point, perhaps early next year. But basically, it was part of the West Knits Yarn Along, which was a 3-part club whereby you signed up really quite early on in the year. My husband signed me up for it as part of my birthday present. There were 3 patterns released. They were all shawls. The first was like a twisted mesh type pattern. This was the second, and the third one was another sort of textural shawl, all different shapes, all different designs, all different yarns and weights of yarn, types, colours, all real mixed bag in there. So more about the Deco Drape then. The yarn was specifically dyed for the club, and it is from a company called Skein, which is an Australian company. The base that it's on is their Uptown Sock, which is 100% superwash merino, and it's a finger in weight yarn, or 4-ply if you're in England. There are 3 different colours involved. The colours were Pink Gin, Very Cherry and Summer Nights. Pink Gin being the really sort of light pink in there. The Very Cherry is this sort of dark brown colour that sits in the background and frames everything, and then the Summer Nights is the border colour here. Beautiful, beautiful yarn, and I absolutely adore this now. It is a finished object. There were a few points in time whilst I was making it, which anyone that's seen the podcast before will be well aware of, where I was a little bit dubious about some of the patterning on here. But certainly now I'm wearing it, I don't think there's anything untoward about it. If I just do this though, you will maybe be able to see what it is have been my previous thoughts on this. But yes, if you sort of scrunch it up and wear it like that, and make sure you don't look at it too much, you don't see any of that, and I don't think anyone else would either. So what I'd like to do for you now then is just to pop this off so that you can get a better look at it. So I'll just take it off for you. It's an absolute beast. There were, come the cast off, something in the region of about 800 stitches across, row after row after row after row, and so it took a very, very long time to get it finally finished, even once I was down to the last bit of border. But definitely well worth the effort. So I'll just show you right the way across, and then I'll try and get the whole thing in shot. Actually, you know what? No, I won't. I'll put some extra footage in at the end so that you can see the whole thing. Otherwise, it's not going to work too well. But yeah, so let's start in the middle then. Here is where it was cast on, and you just sort of had a little garter tab and you worked backwards and forwards this way, and then it grew in a crescent shape and you started to add this panel in here. This is made with lots of sort of different make ones and things, and you have the yarn being held behind in the back to allow certain colours to pop to the front and that sort of thing. You have big panels of garter stitch coming across here, and then you get to another one of these like Art Deco panels. There are 3 of those in total. These came in and were added in via sort of short row shaping to get those in there. There's tiny little cabled section 3 times in the pattern as well, really early on. And then out to the very extremes of it, you'll be able to see just how long this goes on for. That's the other side, look. And then I'll just show you across. The most recent thing I've done is I've added this border on at the bottom, and I was nearly finished with it, but not quite the last time I saw you. Really beautiful effect on there. It's kind of I think like a 2x1 rib, but then with other little interest sections added into it. It's not just straight ribbing all the way along. There we go, look. So it's a beast of an item. Blocking it has really done it good. I soaked it for probably a couple of hours in some, not on purpose by the way, but you'll get to see more about that. But yeah, soaked it for a couple of hours with a little bit of Eucalan, and yeah, now it's all dried. It's really done it good. It's so much softer than it was before, and it was lovely and soft previously, but now it's taken on a different feel altogether. It's made it really comfortable to wear next to the skin as well, which is lovely. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this, and it's nice to be able to sort of finally hold it up whilst it's not on the needle, so that you can get, you know, an appreciation for the shape and size of this thing. There you go. That's nice, isn't it? What do you reckon? Maybe not. But anyway, yeah, it's absolutely huge. Here's the back of it. Look, you can see here's my floats as I've carried the yarn behind the work. These were puckering a little bit before blocking it, but now it's been blocked. It's absolutely fine. This all sort of sits nice and level. So yeah, there's no problem there at all. There's loads and loads of different options in terms of how to wear it. I think it's really quite nice just over the back of his shoulder like this, and then kind of pinned up to one side. I quite like to wear it like that, just you know, over this way. But also the main way that I've been wearing it has been with one of the panels in the middle there, and then just kind of scrunching it up and letting these little sort of tendrils fall down the front. I really do love this thing, and I've worn it a lot. So I'm very pleased with it. And yeah, I think anyone that's finished a West Knit shawl, certainly as I've heard of, they've always said it does feel like, you know, an achievement, and I would have to agree with that. It really does feel like you've done something significant when you've finished this. So that's my finish for this time. I took a little bit of footage whilst I was doing the blocking and stuff, so that you could actually see the process and see what this thing looked like pinned out. I wasn't sure last time I saw you, which was before I'd finished and cast off, if I was going to have enough room on my table to actually block it, because obviously it grows and it was already massive, and I'd not seen quite what size I was dealing with off the needles at that point. But it did fit, and I can show you exactly the process that I followed. Here's Deco Drape pre-blocking. So this is off the needles a week now actually, and I'm just about to pop it in a bath. and we'll see how it comes out the other side. You see at the minute it's kind of a little bit puckered on some of these panels, and I'm hoping that that will even itself out once it's blocked. I'll just show you the back of this. I think probably my floats were a little bit too tight on some of those, but I think hopefully blocking should sort that right out. So here's the bath. In it goes. Just going to prod this into the water. Again, water's at probably just vaguely more than room temperature. A couple of drops of Eucalan in there. Let me just show you that. There it is. It's the lavender one that I use. I've had this same bottle now for like, gosh, it's got to be over a year or so. It's been used loads and loads and loads, but you only need a really, really tiny bit. So that's lasting really well. I'm happy with that. So yeah. In it goes. I'll just leave it to soak in there now for maybe about an hour or so, and I'll see you in a bit. I completely forgot that this was in soak, so it is at least 3 hours later, but I don't think it's going to have done it any harm. Ooh, look, the water's a little bit pink. Looks like we've had a little bit of bleeding in there, but not to worry. Said before, I think it's kind of really to be expected with hand-dyed yarn, and particularly when you're looking at such vivid colours as this. So anyway, there we go. Okay, so yeah, just going to roll this up now. Start at this end, I think. And then when I'm done, I'm going to stand on it. Usual style for me. So you're going to get treated to my beautiful feet. I do apologise in advance for those of you who haven't seen this horror show before. Richie B once told me that if Satan had a minion whose sole purpose it was to scratch his bottom, and then its claws would look like my feet. Thanks, Richie B. Okay, so here's my table. I'm hoping, still not sewing the ends in on that one. I'm hoping that this should be big enough. We shall see. Right, so I've got a bit of adjusting to do, but this thing is massive. My goodness, it's not deep, but it's blooming long. So this is phase one. It's on the table now. I've got to start adjusting it. Tell you what I am finding, these fibres are so relaxed now they've been in the bath. They're so much softer. There is no puckering evident there at all. Completely lying flat and completely happy about it, and it feels so much softer than it did before. I mean, it was soft, it started off soft, but now it's extremely soft. So I'm literally just popping this flat. I love it. Look at that. Looks like something off a Battlestar Galactica, or it looks like a giant stingray or something. That's amazing. That's absolutely beautiful. Let me take you up here so you can get a decent view of the whole thing. Just wish the lighting was better for you. What I'll do is I'll get the morning light tomorrow. Ooh, that's better. That's not so good. And then you'll be able to see it with some natural light on it. So this is natural light, however, it's sunset. I've had all day to do this and haven't been busy with the little one. But the light's a bit better, you can kind of see it. Not quite as artificial. Oh, hello. What's the matter with you? Daddy. Ah, Daddy's nipped out, sweetheart. Daddy. Okay. So that was that. In terms of other finished objects, I'm just looking around me. I know I've got... it's over there. Wait a second. This one you've seen before, Ad Tedium, I'm sure. However, I just wanted to prove to everybody that I can fully finish an item. This is my Joji Locatelli Like a Cloud cardigan knitted in Wool and Vine yarns, and look, I've sewn my ends in. There aren't any ends anymore, and my mummy is proud of me because she was getting rather cross before. Yeah. But yeah, look, I've sewn it all in. It's all done. Yay. So now I can say that I have fully finished that as well. I won't go into any other detail. If you want to see more about this one, go back to the last episode / last 3 episodes. I've spoken about this in quite a lot of those. The next fully finished object that I have is my sea glass top. Now this is by Megan Reagan of the Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits podcast, and she has Bad Wolf Girl Studios as well, which is a yarn dyeing company and where she sells her patterns that she's written. As far as I know, this is the first pattern that Mega's designed that will be up for sale on Ravelry. It's not out just yet, but it is coming out very, very shortly. It should be out from Halloween onwards, I believe. So this was a test knit that I did, and last episode I showed you me wearing it, but it wasn't quite finished because what I hadn't done at that point was done the finishing around the armholes. So the fit of it was great, but probably just a little bit gapey around the arms because I'd not finished it. So now that I've actually put the finishing touches on as per the pattern, it's really made it fit so nicely and comfortably. And yeah, it was already lovely before, but now it's extra super specially wonderful, and I've really, really enjoyed making it, and I really enjoy wearing it. So the yarn that I used for this one is by Dye Candy, and it is her Silky Singles base, which is a 70/30 superwash merino and silk blend. It's in the colourway Flump, and it is simply divine to wear next to the skin. It's soft. It's really, really soft. And again, this is one that where, although the yarn was already soft, you blocked it and you add the wool wash to it, and it takes on just a different feel altogether. And it's just comfortable to wear and lovely. I'll pop it on for you, then you can see what it looks like since I've done the extra finishing to it. I need to get a Ravelry page set up for this as well, so you can go and have a look at it on there. I'll just pop it on over my t-shirt. I'm not going to go stripping off for you, but you'll then be able to see exactly how this fits. It's really lovely in terms of how putting that little bit of finishing on the arms has brought that in now. If I can show you the back of it, I don't think I did this time particularly, but it's a racer back top, so it's really, really cool design, and it goes with lots of things. So yeah, the hem is higher at the front than at the back, so split level there. That's a really nice feature of it. I think it's, for me personally, I prefer to have something that comes a little bit lower at the back. This bruise here is me walking into doors, and that sounds so cliche, but it really, really is. I ran into a door frame chasing after the cats because the cats had run off with something of mine and I was a bit cross. So yeah, it's entirely my own fault. Just to point that one out. So that's all my finishes for this week. I've got a couple of like mini finishes, if you like. It's also a work in progress. So that's on my little blanket here. So this is the Coziest Memories blanket, and I know for certain the last time you saw it, thanks Layla Bean, it looked something like this. So I'd finished 2 layers of it, but now I'm onto my 3rd layer, so I'll talk you through what's on here. This one, hopefully you can see straight away, is the Dye Candy, so that's that Flump that I made my sea glass top out of. These 3 are the colours in my Deco Drape. So this is the Very Cherry, this is the Pink Gin, and this is the Summer Nights colourway. So that's those 3 there. This, again, hopefully it's fairly obvious to regular viewers of the podcast. This is the Weep by Wool and Vine yarns that I made my Like a Cloud cardie out of. What I've not done is put it here with the mohair blended in, because I just thought that wouldn't really match with all the rest of the blanket. So this is just purely the lace weight Blueface Leicester, but held double so that it would be the same weight as the yarn around it. This little square here is some leftover Aztec by Bear in Sheep's Clothing. So the last time I showed you some stash that I bought for my mother-in-law, Bet, whilst I was at the Atlantic Knitscape retreat. Now I had to cake that yarn up for her before I sent it to her, and unfortunately there was just a little scrap that I wasn't able to get onto the cake, and so it stayed with me and I was able to make it into a little square. It was intentionally not intentional. It was not, what am I trying to say? I didn't do that on purpose, but I was not at all gutted that that's what happened, because I really like it and I wanted to add it into my blanket. So this is where we are with that then. It's a really nice little project. You know, these things only take about less than an hour to knit each one. So, you know, if you just kind of in the middle of a massive project and just need something a little bit smaller to just kind of distract you from the bigger project, or if you're getting a bit bored, you just kind of want to do something and have a little sense of achievement, I find it really, really nice just to knit one of these. And they're a bit addictive, so once you've knitted one, you're like, oh, I want to do another one. So I did, 6 whilst I've been in the middle of my other work in progress, and they were a really nice little antidote to the bigger project. So that's those. I'll pop that back down again. I've shown it you before. It's been a while since we had another look at it though. There we go. So, other works in progress then. I've really got only another 2. One is a little small and I'm really not sure where I've put it, but I'll try and find it for you. But the main one I've been working on is living inside my Cottage number 9 bag. This is a wraparound bag. I spoke about this at length in the last episode, so I won't go into that again, but just to say this is my absolute favourite bag of all time. It is amazing. And in here is my Westnitz yarn along. So at this point, actually, probably it would be prudent of me to say there are going to be major spoilers. Hopefully now everyone is well aware of the entire Westnitz the Westnitz Mystery Knit Along pattern. It's called Texture Time. All of the pieces have been released, so hopefully it shouldn't be too much of a spoiler for anyone. Hopefully everybody's already seen the pictures of it, but if you have been doing the knit along and you don't want to see what it looks like, now is your opportunity to disappear. I'll put a little timestamp as to when I will start talking about something else right here for you. Okay then, so for those of you still with me, hopefully that's pretty much everybody, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to not be. Here is my Texture Time. So this is a yearly mystery knit along that he runs. This is the first time that I've ever joined in with the knit along. So there was the yarn along, but the way that this worked was that you got sent a kit with all the colours in it, and then a pattern came out and everybody knits the same thing. And you know immediately from the minute you get the pattern what the entire thing is going to look like. The mystery knit along is very, very different. There are guidelines released as to how to choose your own colours and your own yarn. And then after that, the pattern is released in pieces. So once a week there will be a chunk of the pattern released. And so everybody will then knit that particular part of the pattern together, but people will have very, very different versions of the shawl based on their colour choices, their material choice and everything else. So it's much more of a mystery than the yarn along was. So that really appealed to me. It's not something I've ever particularly done before, and so I thought, you know, I would give it a go. And the first piece that came out was really, really weird to knit, and really I found it quite a challenge. So that's this section here. I'm just going to hold this up. You see the sort of wavy blobby thing in the middle there? That was clue 1. Okay, so this is made from a brioche stitch, but instead of it following the usual pattern of brioche, whereby you just have straight columns, this is what's known as a syncopated brioche. So every couple of rows, the column shifts over to the side and then shifts again and shifts again. So you have to be really, really quite careful to make sure that you're following the pattern, because you can really easily kind of just get distracted and then realise you've gone off kilter with it. Just trying to think where it cast on. It was cast on here. So it started here and you did around there, and then you make increases in the fabric in different parts. These giant holes here, they're massive increases. You can see you make lots and lots of stitches into the same place, and that creates these sort of giant holes. And then there are decreases at the edges here, which brings this sort of funny pattern in there. It was, for me personally, a bit of a nightmare to decide where to put my colours. I went with this sort of neutral palette against almost my better judgment, against what I would normally do out of my comfort zone, let's say. And I'm glad I did, but to begin with, I really wasn't glad at all. When I first started the pattern, I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I've spent a load of money on this yarn, which was not cheap by any stretch of the mark, and I'm really not sure now whether I like it or not. And I tried different ways of putting the colours together, and I stuck it out on Instagram stories and said, you know, what does everyone prefer? And that still didn't really help me. I think, you know, I kind of was tending towards one and everyone else was tending towards something else, and I was more confused than ever. But in the finish up, I had two different options that I liked. One where the main colour was this dark colour here, so all of these light bits here were in the dark, and this light colour was these little blips here instead. And that gave a much darker overall appearance and much more stripy. And to be honest, I didn't particularly like it, but then when I did this, I didn't like this either. So, but the people that replied to my stories all said that they preferred the higher contrast version. So I tried to go with that, and then ended up slipping a load of stitches. The whole thing unravelled, and I was like, all right, okay, so we'll go with the other one then, shall we? So yeah, the long story long at the moment, so we'll try and make a long story short instead, was that I tried different colours. I wasn't too sure about it, but in the finish up, kind of, I didn't have much of an option unless I wanted to waste a load of yarn, but to continue with it in this placement. And actually, now I've finished it, I think the lesser contrast does it a favour, because this pattern is really busy, really textural, and I think if you've got too many crazy colours all over it as well, it's kind of a bit too distracting on the eye, or at least to my taste it is. So piece one is the syncopated brioche. I kept making loads of mistakes. I ripped it back so many times. I ended up losing yarn, all sorts. But by the time I got to about probably the third repeat, I settled into a rhythm with it and was able to knit the rest of it quite comfortably. When I got to the very end, though, I did notice that I'd missed one of the decreases somewhere. So somewhere along the lines in here, there is a problem, but I fudged it. I was not about to go back and try and figure out exactly what I'd done and where. At that point, I just thought, you know what? I don't think anyone's going to be able to tell. I certainly can't find it, so whatever. So that was that bit. Part two, then, the following week, was this section here. So before I go any further on this one, just to let you know, the yarn that I'm using is by Ching Fibres. So I'll just hold you her label up there. So Ching Fibres, she's based out of London as far as I know. It's a lady called Layla. And this is, so the colours that aren't the fluffy ones. So everything apart from the peach is in a high twist blue-faced Leicester. So it's 100% superwash blue-faced Leicester. And there are 365 metres in 100 grams for each of those. It's a gradient, so it's called, each of them are called warm sands, and they're just graded in 1 to 4. I think 1 being the lightest and 4 being the darkest. So warm sands 1, 2, 3, 4, according to which one you're talking about. So I think 1 would have been this light colour here that I'm using for my main colour, and then 2, and then 3 and 4, so on and so forth, down the gradient there. The fluff is Melted Suri. I'm just going to try and find it for you here. So it's in the colourway Peachy, Melted Suri. So again, Ching fibres. And it is 65% baby Suri alpaca, 25% superwash merino, and 10% silk. This comes in 50 gram skeins, so you needed 2 of those. It's still a finger in weight yarn though, and it's 175 metres in 50 grams. This Suri alpaca is so soft. It's fluffy and has the halo like the mohair, but I find this actually way less sort of tendency to be just a little bit itchy. And I mean the mohair, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised in the projects that I've done recently with mohair in that I've not found it particularly scratchy, but this it's different again. It's more, it's just softer. It's just softer, and there's no itch on this at all. Or certainly that for me personally. So yeah, part 2 looks like this. So these wavy wiggly bits with Latvian braids. There goes the cats again. Look at them. Off they go. Dudes, what are you doing? Kitten, Teddy. Blimey. Okay, so they're getting on really well today, which is not distracting at all. So part 2, going back to what we were saying, these wavy pieces here, this was part 2, so this was the second week. I didn't quite manage to finish the first part on time, but I was only about a day or so out. The reason was I had a delayed start because I wanted to finish this one before I started, and I did. I got this finished on, I think it was the Monday or the Tuesday that this had come out, the previous Friday, so I just kept knitting through till I finished this and then moved on to this one, so I was done. So it took me a couple of days over this piece having come out to get this bit finally finished, but then I moved on to this. This I got done in the week and I was ready for part 3 coming out. Now this piece then, it's the same on both sides, so it's split into 2 halves. You've got one on one side and one on the other. So the main thing here for me were these Latvian braids. So this was a completely new technique to me that I've never tried before. The good thing about the West Knits knit along patterns are though that wherever you've got something that might be new to somebody, so where it's not just basically knit and purl, Stephen seems to have done tutorial videos, and really quite in-depth and detailed tutorial videos, and he goes to the pains of showing you how to do things as a continental knitter or as an English throwing knitter as well. So you know, whatever your knitting technique, whatever your skill level, hopefully you should be able to approach these patterns with quite some confidence that you will be able to do it. I'm reasonably new to brioche. I've done, 2 projects with it before ever. There was one, just a shawl that was done in straight knitted 2-colour brioche, and then a shawl shrug, but literally I'm new to brioche in the last year. So this is only the 3rd ever project that I've knitted in it. It's very significantly different to anything that I've done before, but the videos were really descriptive and helped you get through anything that you weren't sure about in terms of the increases, decreases, where to put your needles, etc. So exactly the same for the Latvian braids. He shows you precisely how to do this. It looks a lot more difficult than it actually is. Literally all you're doing to achieve the Latvian braid is you knit and purl each stitch in a different colour as you go across the row with 2 colours. So you would knit one from the dark colour and then knit one with the lighter colour. Teddy, what's going on? Just had a little bit of another cat interruption, so hopefully we won't have too much of that anymore. Back to the Latvian braids then. So yeah, they look more complicated than they actually are. You have a setup row whereby you purl and knit in 2 colours, alternating each one all the way across. And then you come back across I can't remember whether it's alternating knit and purl or whether it's all knitted, but what you're actually doing is you're twisting the yarn around itself for each stitch. So I think, yeah, you would just purl across the row or knit across the row depending on what you're doing, depending on which side of the work you're on. And all you're doing is you bring the yarn, say, from underneath or from over the top, depending on which way you want the arrow, in effect, to point. So I think, where I'm going with this is it looks fairly complex, but these ridges are really just being produced by how you pick up your yarn as you make each stitch. It's fiddly, I will give it that. It does take a lot longer than just knitting straight across a row, but there's nothing complex about it. It's just a little bit fiddly. So it takes a bit more time than just doing a knit. But interspersed in between these Latvian braids are these panels of just pure garter that are done in the melted suri. And my goodness, this piece I think is just so pretty, so beautiful and so different. You've got some short row shaping in here to achieve the look whereby these panels are narrower at one end than they are at the other. But the way that he's done the short rows, there are no holes in the fabric at all. And again, he shows you precisely how to achieve that effect with one of his little videos that are linked through the pattern that you got. So that's this section, so that's section 2. So I managed to finish that one on time. I ran into a bit of a hitch. So I got really cocky and I was like, oh, look at me, I'm Latvian braiding and I've done it all and it's all wonderful and I'm finished one side. I'm going to really be able to smash this one out of the park this week and get the other side done as well. La 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 la, I went on to the other side and promptly realised once I've finished that, yeah, I'd done the same braid as this side, which meant that my braid was actually pointing in that direction, running from the bottom that way instead of top down. So yeah, my advice to anyone who's not done it yet would be definitely keep an eye on the pattern because you're not doing the same thing. Don't get cocky, just read the instructions instead of thinking you know what you're doing when you don't. Hey, this is amazing beard, look at that. Woo, beard. I lingered on this far too long now and I don't know at what point I can take this off. I think we'll just do it, just get on with it. Okay. That was weird. Anyway, so yeah, I had to undo the whole thing because I wasn't gonna have my things going in the wrong direction. So yeah, I did the whole of that Latvian braid and then had to un-Latvian braid it backwards, which was fun. Then another thing I ran into with this side, I think it's this side, yes it was, look, here we go, was that when I'd finished the whole lot, I was surveying back through my progress and I noticed that for some reason here I have clearly managed to start twisting the wrong way, so that's set that to not be arrows anymore. But by the time I had knitted all the way to the end across these two panels here in a yarn that is not going to be easily undone and done 2 more braids to get back to that bit to redo it, no thank you, I'm not that bothered. I don't think you would notice if you didn't know what you were looking for. You might see it, but look, on the whole scheme of this entire thing, I don't think it's that noticeable. So it can stay and be a design feature. But yeah, so I had a few problems with it, is probably what I'm trying to say. I really did have a few problems with it, but it's new to me. And well, whatever, it still looks all right. So that was section 2. Section 3 then are these wavy wings, as Stephen has called them. My dilemma here was what colours to use. The colour that was suggested to use for this section was the darkest shade and the next darkest shade. And I tried a little bit of that, and for me it just didn't look quite right. It looked a bit strange. So I went to one lighter rather than the darkest and used those two. I still wasn't sure if there was enough contrast, and then I tried various different things And instead of swatching in true noob fashion, I just kind of did a few rows expecting it to be all right, and it wasn't. So there was a bit of ripping back to do until I was finally happy with the colours that I'd chosen. But I liked this arrangement. The way that the pattern was written, he did give you options for not putting the lace yarn overs in, just doing it straight and using make ones for your increases instead. But yeah, I thought I'd stick with the lace. This section was not difficult at all. The difficulty for me was choosing the colours that I thought looked right, but beyond that, it's literally just knit with a few yarn overs and decreases in it, and that's all it is. You can probably tell it's just sort of a fairly basic feather and fan type pattern that is used to achieve that look. I did what he said as well. He said there were, opportunities or colour opportunities. So I put a couple of rows of just something to add a little bit of extra interest at the end, just so that it wasn't just one flat panel all exactly the same. But yeah, that's where I've got to on that side. So for me, this section, I could have had it done in time, but I got a little bit bored, I think, just because it was just reams and reams and reams and reams and reams of kind of the same thing over and over and over again. And I think it's beautiful and I really love the effect and everything else, but I was getting just a bit bored. This thing has consumed every single last scrap of my knitting time for the last almost a month nearly. And I think by the time I was getting to the end of this, I've just kind of had enough. I wanted to do something else. So rather than force myself to knit it and, keep up with everybody else and do that whole thing, I thought, well, what does it matter? You'll still have the same finished item at the end. So put it down and do something else that you want to do, which is kind of why I picked up this and then why I picked up the little small that I'm going to show you in a minute. So I finished the one side in time, but I hadn't yet finished the other half of the same clue, and I'm still not done with it yet. I think I'm just over halfway. There's about 170 rows and it's 100 odd stitches across to do, so it's quite a lot of work, but I'm pleased with it. Parts 4 and 5 are now out as well. The fourth part is called I think it's cat's paws or something like that, and there are these sort of giant holes in it that almost sort of mirror this or echo this bit further on in the pattern, but then with the little yarn over holes in it as well, so it looks like little cat paws coming out. I was tempted to start that on this side before I did this, but then I thought, no, do you know what, go through the sort of slightly boring bit, get that bit finished before you then treat yourself with the something different on the end. So you'll get to see that next time. But this is where I've got to so far. And I do have to say, I've gone in and out with it. I've been a little bit disappointed and I don't know if I like it. And then I've been, I'm not sure if I like my colours. I don't know if I like the shape. But the more time I spend with it, the more I look at it, the more I see it. And now I can kind of almost wear it as well. I think I'm actually really, really pleased with it. I think it's actually really rather beautiful. The bit of it that's a little bit concerning is the amount of ends. Okay, so this is nothing. You want to see how this actually looks on the other side. Look at this. Look. Oh my good grief. The finishing has been released in terms of what to do with these, and there are several options. You can just stitch them all in if you really want to, and if you've got 8 million years to do that, and I think some people have, and I'm kind of tempted to, but then it took me about a month to get 2 ends sewn in on the sleeves on my Like a Cloud cardie, so I think realistically that's not going to happen, is it? I could send it next door to my mum and get her to sew them all in for me, but I don't think she'd be too impressed with that, so probably not. So what Stephen has suggested is taking pairs of them and twisting them and turning them into like little squiggly things, and then even like poking some of them through to the front and just having them as like little squiggly features. I tried it and I wasn't sure about the look of it. The other thing is something that is, I think, had in other designs before, so he says it's not something I've seen before, but he turns this like into a French plait almost, going down there, you could do that. So I've not quite decided what I'm going to do, but I need to do something with it. I can't just leave it like this. But yeah, this is a bit terrifying for me. It's a bit daunting, I have to say. But yeah, we just turn it around this way and everything's fine and no one has to see it and it's all good. It can just stay on the inside. But yeah, so this is my texture time. Overall, I am actually really, really happy with it now. I've gone through periods where I wasn't so sure if I'd done the right thing and maybe I was feeling a little bit disappointed with it, but now it's coming towards the end. I think I'm really, really pleased with it. Really, really pleased. So the other little bit of knitting that I've been doing is a little small, so it's a little toy that I'm making, and this was a kit that I bought from Sue Stratford at Yarndale in 2017, so last year. And here's what it's going to look like. So Dennis the Dragon, he's really, really, really cute. Sue Stratford, she is Knitting and Gin on Instagram. If you've not seen her stuff elsewhere, she's the lady that designed that vault sweater as well, so a lot of people have probably seen that. She's got a couple of different books with knitted toys and things, little knitted birds, but this, yeah, particularly caught my eye. So I bought the kit and it's just been kind of languishing in stock, and again, needing some little bits and pieces to be able to cast on and just do something a bit different to this shawl, but without wanting to cast on a garment, I procrastinated this. So this is Dennis the Dragon. It's got another picture in here I can show you. So there he is from the side. It's actually really, really tiny. Yeah, the choice of needle size, really, it's a size 3mm or an American 2 or 3. So I went with an American 2, which is actually a size 2.75mm. Have I got that right? Yeah, 2.75mm. So just a tiny shade smaller than the British size that was suggested. Because I thought, if anything, when you're knitting something like this that's going to then be stuffed, I wanted the gauge to be probably as tight as it's going to be. But here's where I've got to so far. So this is the body. So this will be his chest. And if I kind of hold this like this, you'll hopefully see where that's going from the picture that I just showed you. So that'll be his tail. He'll have little spikes along here, and this bit will be underneath. So far I've nearly finished, so I've just got to cast this piece off. And yeah, there wasn't a deal of work in that. Probably took me perhaps a couple of hours, no more than that. But yeah, it's just nice to have something a bit different to work on. What I'm not looking forward to is sewing him up at the end, but I've done it before. I've done these ones here, so it's not that I can't do it, it's just that I can be a bit lazy with it. But yeah, I thought he was so really lovely and cute and just something a bit different. So that's him. He's being knitted in socks, yeah, by Coop Knits. And you can see him in a different colour there as well. Oh, how cute he is. How sweet. So that's this yarn here, and it's really soft, really, really soft for a sock yarn. It's there's no bite to it at all. It's lovely, and I think the fabric that it's creating at this gauge is really dense but squishy and lovely. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. So yeah, Dennis came as his own little kit. It was all contained in this bag here. It's a little card here that tells you exactly what's inside it. So that Coop Knits yarn, it's their sock share in the double knit. The shade is 209, so that's called Demeter. It has some safety eyes in here. It's got a little bit of the white yarn to make his teeth and things, so that's that. There's the safety eyes. Something just went on the floor, and some stuffing came with it as well to completely finish it off. So bar for the needles, you've got literally everything that you could possibly need to complete that little toy. So I thought, what a nice kit that was. It's a shame to have it just sort of sat there unused. So there we go, that will hopefully be finished within the next couple of weeks and you'll be able to see him when he's done. So I have a little bit of stash acquisition to show you. This is just a small minis set that I purchased from Etsy, something I saw on Instagram. It is dyed by the hand dyer Megan of Bad Wolf Girl Studios, and here it is. This is the Fantastic Beasts collection. So it's inspired by the Fantastic Beasts book by J.K. Rowling, and they are all based on the names of creatures contained within the story. So this one here, I'll just have to look at my notes. This is called The Swooping Evil. This is Grindylow, I'm not quite sure how to say this. Thunderbird we've got over here. Okami and Niffler. But yeah, I think this one particularly is one of my favourites, and then probably followed by that. But look at them all, aren't they beautiful? Some really, really nice shades in there and some beautiful contrast. So my plan was to use some of this to turn into little squares on my blanket, maybe contrasting heels and toes and that sort of thing. Maybe I could make a scrappy set of socks, whatever. There's lots and lots of opportunities to do different things with this. The yarn is really, really soft. It smells really nice, and yeah, I'm extremely pleased with it. It came really, really quickly as well, so that was lovely to receive. She sent it with her card here, and there's a little charm dangling on there, and yes, it tells you on there the exact fibre content. So you can see it's a basic sock base. So 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Meg also sent it with a little button with her logo on it, so that can go on my pin collection. Am I holding that upside down? I am. Sorry, Meg, if she's watching this, which I don't think she will, but you never know. There we go. I have another little bit of stash acquisition that I wanted to show you, and this kind of leads into some future plans for knitting that I have as well, and hopefully this will be a cast on before too very long. I'm really, really excited to show you this because I think it's gorgeous. So this is some yarn from Marina over in the States, and here are my 2 skeins of yarn. These are absolutely beautiful. Now Marina has a podcast on YouTube as well, so her podcast is the Pineapple Knits podcast, and her hand-dyed yarn company is Pineapple Yarns. I believe she used to operate out of Hawaii, and then she's moved over to Indiana in the last year or 2. But yes, these are absolutely divine. This is a mohair blend, and this one is a superwash and stellina. Let me just tell you a little bit more about these then. So this one, it's Noe Kid Silk Lace. That's the base. That's what she calls her mohair base. 72% kid mohair, 28% silk, and oh, it's well squishy. Really, really beautiful. There are 459 yards here. It's a 50 gram skein, so that's a lace weight. And the colourway is called Sip Sip Knit. So yeah, red wine inspired. The colour's been a little bit blown out, I would say, in the light. It's not truly the colour that I'm seeing, but it's not too far off. It's just, it's richer and deeper, more like red wine in real life. But yeah, lovely, lovely and soft. The other one I got here, this is called Spiced Rum, and that's on her gold Nani twist sock. So the stellina content that's in here is a gold stellina. It's 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% gold stellina. And yeah, it's got a beautiful sparkle. Again, this burgundy here is being slightly blown out by the camera. It's actually a little bit richer in person. But yeah, aren't they gorgeous? Got these to go together, and I'm actually going to be making a top out of these, and I really can't wait to cast it on. I've got to finish a couple of other things first. That's my deal that I've done with myself. But once I have, this is going to get cast on and hopefully made into something that I can wear for Christmas. And my plan is then, I'll show you, to make this top, which is by a lady called Stephanie Erpel. Again, she has her own podcast where she talks about her designs and things here on YouTube, so I'll link to that. And yeah, this top is called Sweet Vicious, and I just thought how interesting it was. These sort of tucked stitches and things just look really, really interesting in terms of the texture that they create. There's all sorts of advice here inside the pattern about how to, you know, specifically adjust this to your own size and shape and stuff as well. So I did like the way that you were able to customise the pattern for what you wanted. And in terms of the yarn requirements, I should just scrape in with what I've got there with those 2 skeins. So yeah, really, really looking forward to making this one. So what you can see, the background will be the mohair, and the foreground, these sort of looped tuck stitches will be created in the superwash merino and nylon blended yarn. So yeah, that's one thing I'm really looking forward to. So I've also added to my pin collection. So those of you that watch the Knit Style podcast will have seen these before. And if you haven't watched the Knit Style podcast, do go and watch it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a lady called Sharon and her husband Richard, or Yarn Boy. And yeah, Sharon has a hand-dyed yarn company, and she dyes up some absolutely beautiful yarns. And Rich, he kind of sits there and he does silly voices and sings songs and just generally acts the goat, and it's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, that's their little logo from their company, and it's all sparkly and it's drinking and knitting, so you know what's not to like. And then here is a little pineapple. So this one was from Marina, so Pineapple Knits, that's her little logo, little pineapple as well. So yeah, the pin collection, it's getting a bit out of hand now, isn't it, really? So I think probably what I ought to do is buy one of the little pennants that Terry sells and put them all on there and get them off my bag, but I don't know, I kind of quite like it. So yay, that's my new pins. So since the last time I saw you, I've actually been doing a bit of spinning on my new spinning wheel, and I'm dead pleased with what I've done. I had some top like this, but in a different colour. Essentially the same type of stipper. Let me just get this out of the bag. Excuse the crinkling and crackling. But what it is some top like this. It's blended fibres. The blend is merino wool, bamboo and mulberry silk, and there is 100 grams of fluff inside this packet. So kind of looks something like this, and I have spun this in different colours into this, and I'm so pleased with it. There's only 35 grams here. I think I measured it as something around about, I don't know, maybe the 95-ish meters, somewhere in that region. So I think it's kind of roughly equivalent to like a sport weight that I've spun here. I've left it as a single, so that's literally just, I've spun it once and I've not plied it at all, so this is just single. I did that on the advice of somebody that was in touch with me on Instagram, but she's also one of my followers here. Her name's Nicole, and she sort of gave me various different hints and tips as to things that I could do with it, because I put a picture of it on my Instagram and just said, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I've made this. And so she said, if you're going to keep it as a single, the best advice would be to give it a bath, set the twist, and while you do that, just add a little bit of weight onto it. So that's exactly what I did. I followed that advice, and yeah, it's come out really, really nicely. If I did any filming of that, I will try and insert a clip. If I didn't, I'm just still talking to you and you've not seen anything else. So it's anyone's guess as to what happened. I don't know, you do by now. But yeah, so this, it's really, really lovely, and I'm really pleased by how this turned out. And I think for, you know, a sort of fairly early spin in my spinning career, I am pretty pleased with that. I don't know if I will do much of anything with it, or whether I'll just kind of keep it like this. I have some more that I spun. This bit was my first bit. Hang on a minute. So this is the rest of that same packet of fibre. And yeah, I've still got to decide what to do with this. I think actually probably what I will do is I'll keep it as a single, the same as I did with this. So I need to wind this off. I will wind it off onto what's called a niddy noddy. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's a piece of wood. It's got sort of two flat pieces like this and a connecting bar, and you can twist it so that they sort of have this angle perpendicular to one another at the top and bottom, and then it's just a case of tracing a path round it so that the yarn never actually meets itself. So in that way you create a big loop. Let me just untwist this and show you what I mean. And you know the distance around the thing as well, so that's how you decide how much yarn you've got. But yeah, so that's basically how I did this. I then tied it in a few places to keep the strands straight and to stop it from all getting tangled up. The front and The back are also tied together, and then the whole thing, I just popped that into the sink with some Eucaline, exactly the same process as I would follow if I was blocking a knitted garment. Then I let it soak for sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. Really gently squeezed the water out in a towel and then just left it to hang to dry with some clothes pegs hanging off the bottom, and I can't remember what hung off the clothes peg, but it was a really sort of improvised way of just adding a little bit of weight on the bottom of it whilst it dried. And I'm quite pleased with the finished product. What I didn't mention was the colourway of this is called Goblin's Gold, and the company, this was someone I heard about from Marina's podcast actually, so Pineapple Knits, the one I was talking about before. She mentioned this, and this is a company called Spin Jones. That's the label out of the package here. So this one's called Poisonous Frogs, this pinky purpley one. The other one, the gold and navy and green, was called Goblin's Gold. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm still really enjoying my spinning. I've not done a great deal over the last probably week or so because there's been other stuff going on that I've been more interested in, more engrossed in, probably my West knits as much as anything. It's really taken up virtually all of my spare time, the mystery knit along as in. But I think now I'm kind of coming to the end of that. I will probably be spending a lot more time with my spinning wheel and becoming more accustomed to that. And so I'm really looking forward to getting better and spinning more things there. There's only a couple of other things that I wanted to talk to you about this week, and one of them is a new app that's coming onto the market, and it'll be live as of tomorrow. This is something I've been kind of aware of over the last few weeks, but the more closer that we've got to the date, the more it's come to light, or more information has come out, or I've started to read more. I don't know, but certainly there's a lot more chatter around it now. I'm being a bit cryptic. What I'm talking about is essentially like Netflix for knitting. Okay, so it's a new app that's coming out tomorrow called the Making Things app. Now you can go to the makingthingsapp.com, so I'll pop a link down in the description bar. I'll probably put the name of it on the screen for you. But what this is something that I think personally is going to absolutely revolutionise the way that we interact with knitting patterns, knitting designers online. Ravelry is brilliant, but it has its failings. I think, Ravelry was there at the right time in the right place and has inspired thousands and thousands, if not probably more than that, of people around the world, and has really helped to build this community into what it is. And I think it's a fantastic platform, and I have no issue with Ravelry at all. But, and I guess they usually say ignore everything that comes before the but I genuinely mean that Ravelry, it's revolutionised things as far as I can see in this world of knitters. But it's a bit clunky. I think kind of anyone that has used it has to agree that, some of the way that it works, some of the user interface that you have with it, it just feels a little bit, I don't know, maybe out of date now. It's very, from my perspective, I find it very wordy, very busy. The screen, it's not sort of a clean, modern looking interface. The Making Things app, from what I've seen of it, is very beautiful, very clean. Don't know how it's going to work at this point in time. I've not got that far with it, but what it's going to offer is a monthly subscription service. From what I can see, it's billable in dollars at the moment, so the price is something like $12 a month. And for that fee, what you actually get is access to all the patterns that are on their server, just free access to them. Now, the catch being, and the thing that possibly might, I guess, put a few people off at this point in time, is that you don't physically have those patterns. So think about Netflix. You have access to everything that's on Netflix all the time. You can just stream it, go and watch it, whatever you want. But what you can't particularly do is take things from Netflix and download them locally and then just access them when you're not connected to the server. This is my understanding of it anyway. So the Making Things app gives you a library of, or will give you a library of thousands of patterns from some really, well-known designers, and you can just access any of them at any time. But what you can't do is download them and keep them locally and print them out. So what that actually does, if you think about it, is it protects those designers, so people aren't going to be able to get the patterns and share them and give them out, and or it's going to be a lot more difficult to do so. So hopefully designers will be able to benefit from that. As the end user, I mean, for me, I do like, I have to say at this point in time, printing out patterns and being able to scribble all over them. But what I do find is that I lose pages and end up printing them out again, and sometimes I'm like, oh God, where have I left it? And it's not where I am, and then I have to go onto my phone and kind of look at things anyway and print another copy out. It can be a bit of a problem. From my understanding of the Making Things app, there will be tools on here, so that the way that you interact with your digital pattern will be different. It will have the ability to put stickies on patterns, so you can sort of mark where you are. I think you'll be able to... Sorry, slight interruption there. The gas board came around and just had to do a bit of a test for carbon monoxide, which is fun. Anyway, getting back to the Making Things app. So there will be tools included in the software that allows you to interact very differently with the patterns. So you will be able to put notes on your pattern. I think you'll be able to scribble on it the same as, kind of write on it. You'll be able to put stickies on there. You will be able to know exactly where you are in the pattern digitally, but it won't be the same as having the physical copy in your hands. That's all. What it does have the ability to do, though, is to link straight through to tutorials. Now, I know you can embed like YouTube videos into current patterns on Ravelry, and some people do and some people don't. But I think inherently all of the patterns that are going to be published on this platform will have hyperlinks through all of the content, so that at any point in time, if there's a stitch you're not sure about, you can just literally click on it and it'll take you straight to a video there without leaving the pattern, without leaving what you're doing. It'll go bing, there you go, here's how to make one right, and then you come straight back and into your pattern again. So you're not having to do external searches or plug links into your browser or whatever. It'll all be right there on hand. And as I say, it looks beautiful. I think I'm probably going to sign up. I haven't yet, and by no means am I affiliated with the Making Things Up in any way, shape or form. I'm not. I follow the girl who designed the Sabrina Junk top on Instagram, and it was something that she mentioned in one of her stories, so that's how I became aware of it. But yeah, I've read some really interesting articles about it, and what I'll do is I'll put some links. I just think it's really worth having a look at it. Who knows, it might not take off, or it might. I've got a feeling that we're right on the cusp of something really, really big though with this. I can see, if enough people kind of sign up to it, and if enough investment gets put in it, and enough designers get their content on there, that this could really be big and a complete paradigm shift for the way that we interact with this content. Ravelry's been there for the last 10 years or so doing this job, and I think this could be the next iteration, the next big thing. Ravelry might pull its socks up. They might change their interface. I don't know what's in the wings. There could be something there, but certainly I think it's a really interesting idea to have this subscription-based service where the patterns are held at their end rather than at our end, and that we interact with them in a different way. So if nothing else, it's something to be aware of. It's something to have a look at and just see what you think, because I think it's really, really interesting. So I'll put a few links in and go have a look. But yeah, I think I'll be signing up. I'll be dead interested to see what happens when it comes out. So the software is released tomorrow, so that's Halloween 2018. Speaking of Halloween, I absolutely love Halloween. I've left this bit to the end, so anybody who's kind of not interested in stuff to do with me, see you later. Thank you very, very much for joining me, and I don't feel
Don't feel bad about going because, you know, it's not knitting anymore. It's guff to do with me. But yeah, you probably saw earlier when I turned the camera around, I've got some sort of decorations and bits and bobs going. That's because we're Halloween nuts in this house. Absolutely Halloween nuts. For years and years and years and years in the past, we used to throw a giant bash at Halloween. From Aidan being 3 years old to him being probably 8 years old, we threw a party every single Halloween without fail. And these things got bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people used to come. And the effort, seriously, that people used to make was amazing. Probably to people who are in the US, that doesn't sound like anything at all. But here in the UK, certainly as I was a kid and into the 90s and perhaps early 2000s, Halloween wasn't really a big thing. We were aware of it. We kind of celebrated it. The kids went out and did a bit of trick-or-treating, but that's kind of as much as ever there's been. You'd hear about the odd Halloween party here and there, but there was never really much of a thing in the shops. There weren't really many costumes that you could have access to without going to a specialist shop, that sort of thing. So it just wasn't a big thing. And when I was a kid, I wasn't even allowed to go out trick-or-treating. My mum felt that, you know, it was kind of like begging, and so no, you can't go and do that. So I think as I got older and had my own house and the ability to do this, I rebelled. I invited my mum and she came, so she can't hate Halloween that much, but certainly when we were kids, we weren't allowed to really do much of anything with it. But yeah, so I've always had these massive bashes. Around about Aidan turning 8, we had some awful news in the family. It was a devastating time. There was a death, and it kind of... We stopped celebrating Halloween that year because of that. It just felt uncomfortable to be celebrating those sorts of things, you know, only a couple of months after we'd had this tragic loss in the family. So we didn't have a party that year. And then, I don't know, the next year we didn't. And then the year after that, we were moving and we moved house, and then I was pregnant and we had Ez, and it's not been the right time. But this year somehow it feels kind of like, oh, I want to get my Halloween vibe back again. We'd invited some friends over for Saturday, just gone. And we said, you know, shall we do it? Shall we just get a few bits and pieces out? Shall we decorate? So we went in the loft, got all the stuff out, put Halloween everywhere over the house. It was like Halloween was sick in the house. We put costumes on and did silly things. And it was really, really good fun. So I've put a thing out now on Instagram to the people that used to come to our parties. You heard it here first. It's on for 2019. So we're definitely going to be doing that. What I'll do is I'll stick a few photos on at the end. My friend Chevy Rell Stuff podcast, she did something similar on hers just gone. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to copy that idea. I like that. So I'm going to stick a few photos on the end so that you can get the gist of what our parties used to be like. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2019, to next Halloween, when Ezra is going to be 3. So he'll be the same age as when we started these parties for when Aidan was 3 as well. So that's all going to be great fun. As part of the season as well, we took Ezra out pumpkin picking and had an absolute whale of a time. So I've put a few clips of that in the intro and exit as well, so you'll get to see that. But yeah, I don't know. I like Halloween. I love it. I like all the spooky stuff on telly. Been watching the Walking Dead, American Horror Story, all those kind of usual suspects for this time of year. But the other thing as well that I wanted to talk about is the Haunting of Hill House. My goodness, if it is possible for the hairs on your little toe to stand up, that is what that did for me. Like literally every hair on my entire body. I got goosebumps on my face, on my cheeks, all the way down me, all the way to my toes, everything tingling watching that programme. Me and my husband couldn't watch more than one episode at a time. Aidan watched it with us as well. I think it's like a 15. I don't think it's particularly high certificate or anything like that. There's no gore in it, no real violence. There's bits. It's more implied than anything else. But oh dear, it was creepy. Really, really creepy. I'm tingling now even just thinking about it. So if it's not something that you've seen, do go and watch it. If you don't particularly like horror, go and watch it. It's more of a drama than anything else. It's about, you know, some tragic events that happened in this family, and, you know, kind of the effect that it had on each of them. There's about 5 kids and the mum and dad, and, you know, there's this central event that happened, and you're kind of seeing it as witnessed by the mum, the dad, and all the children separately, and you're looking at it at the time and then in years hence as they sort of look back on it and think about it and just kind of how it's affected all of their lives and the intertwining of that family. It's really, really interesting and really, really creepy at the same time. So yeah, I've loved that. So if you've not seen it, go and check it out. It's really, really good. I do recommend it. And that is it for today. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you very much again for joining me as I ramble on about my knitting and apparently television and Halloween. And it's been lovely having you, and thank you very, very much, and I will see you again next time. You take care. Bye.